Hey yo, what's up and welcome, I'm the one and only West Coast King, and welcome back to Major League 90, where we are talking Major League Soccer, and it was an interesting weekend of matches this week in the league. A lot of games finished 2-1, like over half of the games finished 2-1 as the final score. A couple of teams got their first wins of the seasons, including Toronto, LA, and Seattle, but the games I want to talk about here today are, well, the only three teams that scored more than 2 goals. That was Atlanta United, again, Portland, again, and this time Seattle. So let's talk about those, because there's some interesting things going on here. So let's start off with Atlanta United. They were back at home this week after slapping Minnesota last week 6-1. They're back at home at Bobby Dodd Stadium to take on Chicago, who've been, I would say, mildly impressive this year. They put in some good performances, grinded out a couple of results, have been doing pretty well. And it all went wrong for them this past weekend. Wow, did things get off to a bad start. Gave up an own goal 4 minutes in. Things happen. You know what? A shot hits the defender, deflects into the back of the net. Not the way you want to start a game 4 minutes in, but stuff happens. You gotta put that behind you and move on. Didn't really happen for them. 7 minutes later, Johan Kappelhoff, their defender, gets sent off with a red card. Now they're a man down 11 minutes into the game against that Atlanta offense, which has been nothing short of spectacular this season. They've scored 10 goals in their last 2 games and lead all teams this year in goals scored. I think that their offense is legitimately that good. They have so many options. I mean, Josef Martinez looks like a clear Golden Boot candidate. He's leading the league in goals scored 2 more this past weekend to make it 5 on the season and just 5 in the last 2 games. Miguel Almiron had another very good match, and then Hector Villalba got his goal scoring started for Atlanta, or opened his account for Atlanta this past weekend, and he scored his first goal for the team. There's so many options, and they're so deadly in the attack. If you go a man down in Atlanta, you're not coming back from that. I mean, they're that good. They just jump on you, and they hammer you, and they keep hammering you until the final whistle. And I absolutely love it. They're one of the most fun teams to watch. Not a lot of that around in the MLS. There's not many teams like that can punish you the way Atlanta can punish you. And I think they're a legitimate contender this season. Are they a top 3 team? Right now they sit atop the Eastern Conference. Are they a top team in the East? Possibly. I would probably say more likely a 4th, 5th team. Maybe a 3rd place team. I don't know. But I definitely think they could make the playoffs in their first season. They probably will with the way they're playing. And another team that scored 4 goals this past weekend, Portland. Now, honestly, you can take this any way you want. You see me sitting here with my Sounder stuff on. Obviously, I don't like Portland, but I'm going to give you my brutally honest opinion about them this year. Am I impressed by them? Somewhat. Do I think that they're really as good as what their results are saying they are? I don't know. I want to say no, but it's hard to say no when they've won 3 out of 3 games. But let's look at those results real quick, okay? They beat Minnesota the first game of the season. Who hasn't? I mean, everybody slaps Minnesota except for Colorado this past weekend, but that's a completely different story. I think that's because Colorado just isn't that good either. But, okay, so Portland slapped Minnesota the first game of the season at home at Providence Park. So what? I mean, big deal. They won the game. Yes, they did it with a big scoreline, but I mean, they beat Minnesota. Not a big deal in my eyes. Then they went on the road to LA. They cheated and won. Tripped up by You can say whatever you want. They cheated and then they won. That's what happened. Those are the facts. They cheated and won. So take that how you want. And then this past weekend, they were back home at Providence Park to take on a Houston team, yes, that had won their first 2 games, but we really don't know what Houston is going to be. They came out and played pretty well against Portland, but in the end, Portland was just better than them. And I can say that with confidence, Portland is better than Houston. So they won the games that they were supposed to win on the road in LA. Should they have won that game? They shouldn't have won that game, but they ended up getting the victory there. They did what they had to do and they got the win. I just am not impressed by Portland. I'm not. And part of me, yes, that is the Rave Green in my blood. Other part of me is I just don't think that they're that good. I've not been impressed by Portland. I know it's going to piss some people off. All the Timber Army out there, Come at me. I don't care. I'm not impressed by Portland. I want to see Seattle and Portland play. That's what I want to see. If Portland beats Seattle, then I'll give them some respect. But until they actually beat a decent team, I can't say that I'm impressed by them. And speaking of Seattle, they were at home for the first time this season at CenturyLink Field. I was there. Great times had all around. We raised the trophy, dropped the banner, emotions were running high at the link, and Seattle came out and played very, very well. They got their first lead of the season in the first half. Some sloppy play by New York in defense. They tried to play a ball back to goalkeeper Robles and just didn't get the pass all the way there. Jordan Morris pounced on it, took a touch, and Robles took him down. Unfortunate circumstances for New York, but Clint Dempsey steps up, finishes off the penalty for his second goal of the season, and for the first time all year long, took them into the third game to do it, but Seattle had a lead in the match. That's their first lead of the season. I think they've been playing pretty well. It's just they haven't really been able to get off to a very good start in any of the matches. On Sunday, they actually did that. For the first time, they did that, and I really, really enjoyed that. In the second half, however, New York equalized. They didn't do much at all game long. They held possession pretty well. Didn't create many chances. Really, the only good chance they created, Bradley Wright Phillips finished it off with a great header off the post and in for the equalizer early in the second half. But after that, Seattle turned it back on. They got the second goal off of some great play by Jovan Jones. He's probably been our best creative attacking player this season, and he's our left back. Yeah, he plays like left mid / left wing for Trinidad and Tobago for international duty, but he's our left back, and he's our best offensive threat so far this season. We need to turn it on in other areas, but he was great again on Sunday. Nutmegs the defender on the wing, pulls it into Ladero, first time crosses it over to the back post for Jordan Morris, who heads it home for his first goal of the season. He desperately needed that goal as well. Yes, he's been very active, creating a lot of opportunities, but his finishing has been horrific. I mean, Jordan Morris has struggled to get shots on target this year, just has not been off to a very good start. So I'm happy to see him get his first goal of the season. And then Seattle finished the game off later with Harry Shipp's first goal of the season for Seattle. And I would say it was a world-class finish, wasn't it? I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. Jovan Jones once again popping up in the offensive end, hammers a shot low to the far post. Harry Shipp was in the middle of that, and he redirected it. I don't even know if he knew much about it, but he stuck his foot out, redirected it near post. Keeper had gone the wrong way, and it just trickles into the back of the net to make it 3. They all count. Harry Shipp gets his first goal in Rave Green. I was excited for that one as well. Overall, I thought Seattle played pretty well. I don't think New York played bad, but, I mean, they had a lot of possession. It felt like they had the majority of the possession by a lot, and in the end, I think they had 52% possession, but they had the ball a lot, did nothing with it. They really created no chances for themselves, which is very unlike New York. They just did not seem like they were on the same page altogether. And in the end, just not enough from them. Not enough offensively. And Seattle pounced on their opportunities, took their shots well, and won their first game of the season at CenturyLink Field. Happy to see that. It was a really, really great day. Beautiful day at CenturyLink Field as well. No clouds in the sky. The sun was shining. Fantastic day in Seattle. So Atlanta and Portland sit atop of their respective conferences. That's great. They're off to fantastic starts this season. But some teams aren't. Some teams are kind of languishing down there at the bottom of the conference. And let's talk about those teams right now. Yeah, it's only a couple of games into the season. But are these teams that are off to these slow starts, are they really that bad? Or are they just off to a slow start and they have the time and the talent to turn this thing around? So starting off in the Eastern Conference, the only team that has 0 points right now is New England. They've only played 2 games as opposed to most of the other teams having played 3, but they've lost them both. This past weekend, a very hard-fought game down in Dallas. They took the lead in that one before Dallas eventually battled back and got the 3 points late. I don't think that they're that bad. I don't think that they're going to be a bottom team in the Eastern Conference, but am I thinking that they're still a playoff team like I had them before the season started? I'm thinking no. They're probably more of like a 7th, 8th, 9th place team just on the outside of the playoffs looking in when the season finishes, but I don't think that they're going to be the bottom team in the Eastern Conference this season. Just above them on 1 point is DC United. Do I think that they're that bad? Actually, yes, I do. I watched their game this past weekend where they took on Columbus at home in DC. they were completely flat. They have no creativity, nothing going forward. They are just not a good team. And they lost Patrick Mullins in that game. If he's down for any length of time, they're going to have less than nothing. I mean, I actually think that, yes, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference this season. I just don't see any bright spots in that team. They lost the game 2-0 to Columbus, who I said were probably the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And they lost it on 2 penalties conceded by just bad defensive mistakes. I mean, they just don't look that good to me. I think DC United is going to be one of the worst teams in the East. In the Western Conference, there sits 3 teams all on 1 point. At the bottom right now is Minnesota. Is there even any question whether or not I think that they're actually that bad? Yes. Hell yes. Oh my God, yes. Are they that bad? Another just horrific defensive performance. Their defense is so bad. They'd be better off just not putting defenders back there because they're actually hurting their team. They'd be better off sticking a couple of traffic cones back there and just hoping that they can get the job done, because at least they're not going to be screwing their team over. That's how bad their defenders have been this season. They're so unbelievably bad. I don't want to go any further into it, because I actually feel kind of bad now for those Minnesota fans. Had their hopes up going into the MLS in their first season. It just has not gone well, and I don't know if it's going to get any better. They were able to get a point this past weekend against Colorado, so that's something, but it's not going to get much better than that. RSL currently sits in 9th place in the Western Conference. They lost again this past weekend. Kyle Beckerman picking up a red card, so they had to play down a man. I don't know. I keep saying RSL is a boring team. They still look absolutely boring to me. I don't know if they're going to be a bottom team in the Western Conference, but I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. I had them in the playoffs this season, maybe, I think. Actually, I don't really remember. It's hard to tell, okay? I forget about them because they're so damn boring. But I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. Maybe, I think, kind of like New England, just on the outside looking in when it's all said and done. They might be able to sneak into the playoffs, but I don't know. Honestly, it's hard to tell with RSL. And in 10th place, we have Vancouver, who lost to Toronto this past weekend. They're just not very good, are they? No, Vancouver thought they were going to be good this season. Thought they were going to be a playoff team. They still show signs that they could be. But it's hard to believe in them when they keep losing. I'm really losing faith in them at this point. I mean, it wasn't very good again this past weekend at home. Breck Shea gets sent off in the game. It just, I don't know. They don't look good. And those ugly kits. Can we talk about Vancouver's kits for a minute? Who in that organization thought it was a good idea to dress them up in pajamas to play a professional soccer match? Have you seen their kits? Why are they polka dotted? They had some of the cleanest, nicest kits in the league for the past couple of seasons. Loved their white home kits. Now they put polka dots on them. And they're like triangular polka dots. It's like, are those supposed to be mountains? Are they sponsored by the Illuminati? What the hell is going on with their kits? They're so freaking bad. I'm almost happy every time they lose. That's how bad those things are. They're so ugly. They don't deserve to win games. Change your kits or go naked. Anything would be an improvement over whatever the hell they're putting on their bodies. That's horrific. But as far as their play goes, there still might be time for Vancouver. They need to learn how to score a freaking goal. I thought Freddie Montero was supposed to be helping them with that. He hasn't done much, but they haven't really been giving him much to work with. Overall, they've looked very flat this season, but I still have just a smidgen, just this much faith left in Vancouver. They lose again next weekend, or maybe the weekend after that, then I lose all hope. But for now, I think there's just maybe a little bit of hope left for Vancouver. So that is all I've got to talk about for today. If you're a fan of one of those teams that I just talked about sitting at the bottom of the table, do you believe that your team can get back into it? If I had to give any of those 5 teams a better than 50-50 chance to get actually back into the playoff picture, I might be willing to go with New England just because they played 2 games this season, both on the road, both pretty tough matches, and they've only lost both of those games by 1 goal apiece. So they've looked okay, and I think there's something there for them, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I'd give any of them better than a 50% chance to get back into it. But I think New England maybe have the best chance out of all of them. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on those teams sitting at the bottom. Is there still time for them? But that is going to be it for this one. If you did enjoy it, make sure to let me know by leaving a like below. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you when we come back for some more Major League 90. See ya.